Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston Astros podcast for diehard Astros fans. From a diehard Houston Astros fan, I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros fan podcaster that you are currently listening to, at least. I'm a writer, retired sketch comedian, dog dad, and multi-hyphenate. I'm a Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. Not only did I once live in the Heights, I lived off the bayou. And, maybe that was like the third place that I lived in Houston that was off the bayou. I'm a frequent bayou resident, folks. I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer in Los Angeles, and now... I finally put enough years as in LA. They gave me a podcast. I'm podcasting, and welcome to said podcast. This is what my brother calls the Paul Broadpod Ball Blog. You can check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience. You get the articles, the memes, and the podcasts all there. But thanks for listening to this podcast wherever you are listening to this on. I started Space Cadet Sports as a passion project because most media is kind of infuriating as a diehard, long-term fan of the Houston Astros. Here we aren't doom and gloom Astros fans or worse, the national media haters. We love this team and we want to root them on, but also we want to try to discuss the ins and outs of the team without too much homerism. Keyword try. We try to be reasonable and not too hot takey here or reactionary. Welcome to the podcast, folks. We're recording here in sunny Los Angeles, and I'm joined by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz, to my Fraser Carla. The dog is here with me. Give some warm fuzzies, some prayer. Whatever it is that you have in your heart, definitely looking for a little bit of love for Carla. She has, for some of you who listen to the podcast regularly, she's been dealing with some stomach issues this summer, and yeah, she's really not feeling it right now. I've had to take her on lots of emergency walks, and we won't get into that on the podcast. This is not Sick Dog Podcast. I don't want to gross everybody out. But I might have to pause in this podcast for a dog run at some point. She is looking to get better. We've taken her to the vet. We have her medicine. We're trying special diets here, stuff. But we're hoping that she starts feeling better. But an Astros game like today, an Astros series like we've just experienced is not going to help her feel any better. Just heads up, she is in the studio. She may get on mic from time to time. She is a reactionary girl. She is a big girl. She has a big bark. She has the hot takes on this podcast. Just a heads up. Today, we're going to talk about the disappointing, but not quite the sky is falling series in Cincinnati, Astros ejections. We're going to look ahead to the series at Minute Maid against the Snicks. A contract extension of note. A quick Texans note, as today is the first day of football season. So let's go ahead and jump into the podcast here, folks. Oh man, it's already a bummer. I'm trying to keep the energy up here, but I immediately started recording pretty much after the game ended here, so I am still feeling it. One way to definitely do hot take sports broadcasting or podcasting is to jump on the mic when you're feeling hot and emotional. I'm not feeling that emotional. Like, honestly, I know this isn't the end of the world, but it was a very frustrating series and ended off with a very frustrating game that I was pretty much a must-win for this team, so that they could just salvage a series. They didn't win it, so we're having to just move on and live with it, and that doesn't feel too fun. The first game of the Cincinnati series we recapped in a previous podcast, so you can jump back a couple here to get that if you want the full recap. But the Astros did lose that game 3-5. It isn't the previous podcast in the feed. The previous podcast, if you go back one episode, that's actually the Texans Week 1 and NFL Week 1 preview podcast there. So you won't get baseball if you go back one, but I believe if you go back two, you'll get the Kansas City Royals sweep and the breakdown of Game 1 here. So moving on to Game 2, not that we really want to, but it was a spaghetti nightmare in this game in the first inning, particularly as the Astros dropped the Game 2 5-12. I sent out that NFL podcast asking everybody if you're ready for some football. I did not expect to be ready for a football-like score. My goodness, this is an awful baseball game or an awful football game score, no matter which way you cut it. After winning the American League Rookie of the Month, Spaghetti Man really gets rocked here, beat by some bad luck, beat by some bad defense, and definitely beat by some bad location. You have to give it to the Reds for battling, because truly he also got beat by the Reds lineup, having to face 11 batters in 2/3 of an inning. Let's look at that Spencer Arrighetti stat line here real quick. He pitched 2/3 of an inning, gave up 6 hits, 9 runs, 9 earned runs, gave up 3 walks with 0 strikeouts from Spaghetti in this game. That was not great. Obviously, nothing about this line is great. 1 home run given up. He threw 38 pitches and 23 for strikes before being lifted for Scott. So, really tough game there for Spencer Arrighetti. Like I said earlier, he faced 11 batters. The game started with a bad omen as Jonathan India hit a leadoff homer. De La Cruz hit a double. Then another double followed that up to put the Reds up immediately 2-0. At that point, it seemed like maybe the inning could have ended with a couple of things going our way, but the game just broke bad, and honestly, it was a tough one. Spencer Arrighetti get some walks, picks up some walks here. A Jeremy Pena grounder that sneaks past him to keep the inning tragically alive. By the time Taylor Scott came in, it was 7-0, and he let up a 2 RBI single to make it 9-0, with Spencer Arrighetti having to watch those 2 final runs come in from the bench. It was a tough first inning. 9-0 by the first Wolf. When a game starts off like that, it feels disheartening. As a fan, I don't do this. I tell y'all all the time, I watch every pitch. I watch every game. That is, I am a fan of the team. I don't try to sit here and act like I am some expert for sure. I watch a lot of baseball. I have a lot of opinions on a lot of baseball, but I don't try to sit here and act like I am a scout or a statistician. I'm an amateur scout, an amateur statistician. I may, know these things more than the average bear, but I don't want to sit here and pretend to be something I am not. But it just felt like one of those games that, as a fan, as merely a fan, I could just turn it off and walk away after that first inning. Maybe it's what you should have done, if you're not hosting your own podcast there. But the problem is that when and this is why I have that heavy caveat in there as well, as, when this happens, from my very limited experience of playing very minimal baseball, you get skunked in that first inning, and it's really hard to kind of focus up for the rest of the game. You really have to battle every at-bat, every at-pitch. You can't give a pitch away. You can't give an at-bat away. And, the fact that it was 9-0 in the first inning and the final score was 5-12 really shows that the Astros did try to fight and claw to get their way back. Obviously it wasn't the results that they wanted or that we wanted as fans, but it was enough to make me feel good or feel a little bit better about it. In the top of the second, Breggy hit a double and Gamble hit Ben Gamble once again coming through for the Astros in his very limited time in an Astros jersey, hits an RBI single to put the Astros on the board and kind of get the shutout off their backs so that they can just go in there and battle. To have to go in there and battle 9-0 and not wanting to be shut out, but also wanting to score, there's just a lot of things. So it was kind of, when I saw them putting a run up in that subsequent inning, it made me happy to think that maybe, just maybe, they could battle. 9 is a huge run differential to come back from. But minimally, I was like, okay, this team is going to battle. That was something I was hoping to see them. The Astros did grind, but they just did not have enough to close a huge gap. Not exactly, not that I expected them to, but I just, prayed and remembered plenty of double-digit games, So with a lot of the big boys getting pulled early, the team had a great overall effort. But I was happy, more than happy. I was happy to see them put in a better effort because it was a demoralizing loss in the first inning. It felt already like the game was over and it was hard to swallow. So it was good to see everybody get some efforts in, try to bounce back in the game instead of trying to wait to bounce back in the next game. We'll get to that, though. At this point, they gave me plenty of hope. McCormick in this game, Chas McCormick, who was added to the roster because Jake Myers is on paternity leave. Chazzy went 2 for 3 with 1 RBI and 1 walk. The team as a total had 9 hits, 5 RBIs, 3 walks, but 13 strikeouts, not 19. Goodness, 13 strikeouts, which is just come on. That's a tough one. Swinging, when you're not trying to give bats away, when you're not trying to give away pitches, that's it seems like they were pushing a little bit there to have that higher strikeout total, that abnormal higher strikeout total. Perhaps they were pushing, not expanding the zone. The things that I've been my Madden. My Madden isms this season, definitely coming back into play of not expanding the zone there. Singleton in this game hit his 13th home run in the 7th, hitting a solo bolo. But, we'll take it. It doesn't matter. We're not going to wish it was a grand slam or had more men on base in a game like this. You're hoping that they kind of get back to their regular broadcasting, So it was good to see that solo bolo hit by Singleton. Overall, the team was 3 for 11 with runners in scoring position, which shows that they may have been able to close the gap a little bit better if they were just crazy efficient and didn't leave 7 men on base. But I mean, what are our expectations here? You want great effort and results and preferably wins, but for the way this game started, I take this as a positive to at least, like I was saying earlier, try to trend in the right direction to be able to get the next one. The bullpen obviously was used heavily in this game. Taylor Scott pitched 2 1/3 of an inning, giving up 4 hits, 1 run, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. Really kind of holding it down there. Taylor Scott once again coming through for the Astros. Forrest Whitley pitched next in 1 2/3 of an inning with 3 hits, given up 2 runs, 0 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Caleb Hort came in to eat some innings as well. He ended up pitching 1 1/3, gave up a hit and a strikeout. And then some regular faces helped close out the game. Neris pitching 1 inning and getting 2 strikeouts, and Presley pitching the 8th, pitching an inning and getting a strikeout. The bullpen overall just giving up 1 earned run, so give it up for the boys in the pen. When I said the pen was going to be the biggest question mark in the beginning of this year, in the season preview, I have to say, I think the bullpen listens to this podcast and they took that personally. They answered my question. The bullpen has really been great this season, for all the people that were critical of the Astros not re-signing Neris, the Astros not re-signing Maton or Stanek. Stanek and Maton are both with the Mets right now. Neris obviously was signed once he was DFA'd by the Cubs. But, all that being said is that the Astros have found a way to get this bullpen going again. They didn't need to re-sign those arms. They had some arms. They worked the waivers. They really found a way to piece together a bullpen on the cheap, and you got to give it up to Dana Brown here. It may have taken like 30 arms to get us here, but we are slowly getting here to having a good bullpen. it's. I guess that's just our little silver lining right now. Definitely very bitter about this series sweep by the Reds. Moving on to Game 3, that's right, the Reds sweep the Astros, but you probably know that by now. You probably are tuning in and you're angry about it. You're probably tuning in and you're like, oh, this guy's normally, he's normally that cool glass of water. He's not gonna get too angry. I mean, it's hard. You're gonna be a little red getting swept by the Reds. You know what I'm saying? So the Astros get shut out in this game, 1-0, in a very frustrating alert. And also, ejection alert, Joe Espada gets tossed in the fourth inning after a very bizarre and weird circumstance. I kind of feel like that's just how this series went. The series just felt like it wasn't our series. It just never felt like anything was happening that was good in our direction. Nothing felt comfortable. It felt like it just felt wrong all around. So this seemed to be another good metaphor for this series. The umpires called a foul tip when a ball hit or perhaps grazed Alex Bregman. This is going to be one of those one of those heavily scrutinized internet clips for a little bit. From my opinion, it looked like the ball definitely clipped Bregman there. I don't understand how. I mean, I know it's very minimal, but it looks apparent by my eyes. So I don't see how they don't see that. Also, if you heard a sound and you, as the umpire, you assumed it was a foul tip and you call a foul tip and you go back and you look at the video review and you see that the ball doesn't come off of the bat, then that means that sound was made by it hitting something else. It wasn't the pop of the catcher's mitt. It was probably the body of the batter. That to me is just kind of where the frustration is for me. The Astros challenged, but New York said it was not a hit by pitch and said the ruling on the field stands. The foul tip stands even though there is no video evidence of the ball going off of the foul tip. It was what was called on the field, so I'm guessing what their logic there is that there was not enough evidence to show that Alex Bregman was hit, so they defer to the ruling on the field. However, it's just one of those things where it just doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. I don't understand how that can be called, how there's not enough evidence to overturn it. I thought there was enough evidence to overturn it, on top of the fact that there's an audio sound that something happened. But I am not an umpire. I don't know the whole rule book. It's definitely very frustrating. Bregman struck out after a long time, a long review. Bregman was, already at first base, assuming that, that the ball that hit him would give him a walk the way that baseball rules generally work. But Bregman, unfortunately, was called back to finish his at-bat because it was a foul tip off of his body. I guess it's, a new thing that they're trying. So Bregman came back. He struck out, which, of course, made things more frustrating for Bregman. Bregman was kind of jawing. It wasn't intense. He wasn't, in the umpire's face. He was kind of, muttering to himself, kind of turning his face to the umpire or perhaps catcher as he was walking away. I do not know what was said, so I'm not, it's all this speculation, we really don't know what these players say, and, so that's why people are like, well, you don't know what they said, but also, it's like, reverse Uno card, you don't know what they said either, to assume that they're saying, completely crazy things. That's not the Bregman we know. There are hothead baseball players, there are very mouthy baseball players, but Bregman has never seemed to me as that guy that very much is always trying to get into arguing balls and strikes. The whole Astros squad understands that they need to be in the game to contribute to the game and tend not to get too fiery, passionate. There's not a lot of Astros fits at the plate and injections. But Bregman definitely, after the whole ordeal of the situation, Bregman saying something and looking back, I thought for a minute he was going to be ejected. the umpire made the ejection call towards Bregman. Bregman kind of pointed at his chest like, "Who, me?" Definitely, looking like, "Why? What did I do?" But luckily, I feel like what happened in this situation is Joe Espada felt the same way we all kind of felt as Astros fans when Bregman turned his head to the umpire to no longer be muttering to his feet and angrily pouting as he's walking away from the batter's box. But now this could be misconstrued as disrespect, or we've seen Bregman get ejected for very minimal things already this week. So Joe Espada saw that, got nervous, and I think he just kind of outperformed Bregman in that situation. He's like, to save my star from getting ejected from this very close game where we're going to need his at-bats, I'm going to have to be the sacrificial lamb. I will fall down on this bomb for you, Bregman. So I think that's what Espada was doing. Joe Espada is not a very angry, demonstrative guy. So, this was like the biggest I've seen him. He definitely seemed to be gesturing and like trying to distract from Alex Bregman, whatever he was saying. So Joe Espada got ejected there. I believe that was the fourth inning. It's better that Espada leaves and have Omar Lopez, the bench coach, manage the rest of the game than Bregman, having to be ejected in this game that the Astros needed to try to stop the bleeding. In this game, it's hard. The Astros have done fairly good efforts in this game, losing efforts for sure. So it's frustrating for fans. It's frustrating for people, that are wanting this team to win. But watching this game, watching this series, there is a lot that they can build off of. It's just been terrible offensive results. But something that I've seen a lot of good effort in that I wanted to call out for this game is the defense. There's no denying it. The Astros need to sharpen up their defense. We have lived in the golden era of Houston Astros baseball, and one of the trademarks of this team has been stingy defense. This team has not quite been a comedy of errors this season, but it's more been like The Bear, a tense tragedy that I will happily explain to you is actually funny and has good jokes. It's just not in the way that you're used to it, So this, and while it's not a full out sitcom comedy, it is a tragic comedy that's happening with the Astros defense this season. I do think that the Astros are better than their defensive numbers reflect on this year. So it was good to see a big Jose Altuve play almost get out of the fourth inning for Hunter Brown. Altuve ranged I believe he was ranging to his right glove side and made a spinning throw back towards John Singleton. Even for the call of an out by the first base umpire that was overturned, it was, most of us could tell it was really close, if not the runner being safe. But to see Jose Altuve give that effort to have an online throw was big. Not getting the out falls into the bad luck category for sure, but you just sometimes you don't look at the final stat. You have to watch the game and know the effort to see how that stat happens so that you can know, not all stats are black and white. So, this was a great defensive effort by Jose Altuve, getting the ball down and trying to get the ball in. But, the biggest thing is the Astros are giving consistent effort, and that's how they bounced back from some awful and rough stretches this year. They need to get back in their groove defensively, and great defensive effort from the veteran here, to set the tone for what this team does and what they're here to do. There was this awful dropped pop-up, I believe in the first game, it might have been the second game, trying to remember, by the Reds that popped up between Jonathan India and Ellie De La Cruz in the last game, maybe? Yeah, I think it was the last game. That was just bad communication, bad effort. It looked pretty rough, and Sarah, my partner, who doesn't watch a lot of baseball, but because She's stuck with me. She sees a lot of Astros baseball, so she's watched a lot of the golden era of Houston Astros baseball. She's been lucky to pop in on innings from here time to time, and she was watching that inning with me, and she was just like, "What the hell is this? These guys are so bad." And I was like, "Oh well, yeah, this is bad communicate." I'm trying to explain like, "Oh yeah, no, the Astros just have pride themselves on defense, so you're used to seeing well communicated, well oiled machine." And she was like, yeah, but lately they haven't been that sharp. So it's like even Sarah knows, she's paying attention. Anybody that's paying attention knows that the defense hasn't been the sharpest. And you kind of look at teams like the Reds, non-winning clubs. The defensive effort sometimes isn't always there. The communication isn't always there. So the Astros need to play for pride. They need they need to keep the defense being a huge part of what this team does by having pride in it, and it was good to see Altuve set that tone there. There was also, in the golden era, their defensive effort has truly been golden, and I just wanted to mention I don't think they're bad. I'm just saying that it's kind of lost a little bit of the luster. They're like silver in this moment. They're not quite golden, but the offense, has not been slugging consistently yet. The Astros really need to get help everywhere they can to pick up their pitcher, and part of that is top tier defense. I think they'll get there. This is just like a minor case of the yips. And like I said, that set the tone because in the bottom of the fifth inning, there's a web gem from Jeremy Pena ranging to his right and firing to get a speedy Jonathan India at first with a wonderful grab by Singleton that was just thrown on a line straight to his glove. The end of the inning had Altuve range far to his right and quickly throw to Pena at second to get a force out. It was a bit of a high throw, but Pena made the leap up, landed tiptoe on second and bounced off a second and to move before the hard slide came in and knocked him out. More of this. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You set the tone. The plays aren't always going to be the sharpest with some of the players on the Houston Astros. Jose Altuve, some of his defensive plays are all effort. Sometimes they're not always the sharpest. The ball should have been thrown a little lower, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day if everyone's giving their best effort, and the few defensive errors that happen can be chalked up to just, well, things happen, we gave our best effort. So that was a huge silver lining for me in this game, is to see some defensive solidifying there. Something that I was mentioning in the last game that I was happy to see, but I did not see in this game and did not carry over, much to my chagrin. That's your vocabulary word for the day, kids. Two hits in the fifth inning, up until there were only two hits in the game is what I'm trying to say, up till the fifth inning. Both of those hits came from JP3. Tuve got a single in the fifth. Top of the seventh, there's a little bit of offense as well. Gamble got a single. Chaz got a single, and Gamble ran to third. That got the pitcher out. Rhett Lauder, who was battling Hunter Brown, who we'll get to a little bit later, was really incredible in this game. It was only his second outing as a major league pitcher. You have to give props to the young pitchers. I know it's frustrating when the Astros go to an unproven pitcher and make him look like a Cy Young winner, but honestly, at the same time, these Astros are a tough lineup, so you sometimes you just have to give your flowers to the other team and just be like, you know what, that guy did great. So this felt good to me in the seventh inning with getting this guy who in his second major league start out of the game. Victor Caratini came up to the plate and grounded into a double play to kill the rally. I thought that was it. But that's kind of how the season goes, or how the losing games have gone lately when they're close. It's like, we think we have it. There's just something that breaks the wrong way. But that's baseball. Like I've said, baseball is a game of failure. If you do the thing right once in every 3 attempts, you go to the Hall of Fame. It's pretty... it is a game of failure, but this just wasn't their day. Hunter Brown made the start, ending a quality start this game through 6 innings. He pitched a shutout through 6 is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, Carla jumped down, so I was just checking in with her. she's doing good. She was just moving around a lot, so I wanted to make sure she was okay, and I lost my space. But we're getting back into it, talking about Hunter Brown. He pitched 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, gave up a walk, and got 6 strikeouts in this game. Quality start by Hunter, wasted almost immediately. In the 7th inning, Brian Abreu comes in, pitches well, but not well enough, giving up a home run to just straight up Astros villain, Ty France. Honestly, I don't think I ever want to see this dude again. I'm glad, good for Ty France. It must have been terrible to be on that Mariners team and not be producing and getting cut after being with that organization for so long. I always say we can hate players, and you hate them like comedically, and but not actually as people. So shout out to Ty France for kind of still having his career going in the direction that he's hoping for, finding a home with the Reds. But I was not happy to see this man. It doesn't matter if he's wearing green or red, I don't care. This guy's been hitting the Astros well, and he hit them well again. He gave up get a homer against Brian Abreu, the first run of the game, putting the Reds up 1-0, and that's all she wrote for the offense on either side. That's all it was needed. Brian Abreu picks up the loss here. He has two. He's now 2 for 3 on the season. It's his third loss. He obviously pitched the whole inning, gave up 2 hits. That run was an earned run, being his only home run given up, obviously, and he got the strikeout there. I know sometimes we could be very frustrated with Brian Abreu and what he's, some of his struggles this season. This was just a bad pitch. This was tough. That one pitch really cost the game. But that's where it is. It's hard to give it all to Abreu. I kind of put it more on the offense and the team effort than just on Abreu. But it's tough to see Abreu once again struggle in the late innings. For him, it's always just one pitch. But arguably, that's all relief pitchers. It's always just one pitch. Caleb Ferguson came in down 1 in the 8th. He gets a strikeout and gives up the walk, but once again gets out of the inning without giving up any runs. It was just a frustrating game, folks. After winning 5 straight and sweeping the Royals, once again, shout out to Red Louder. Definitely great outing from him. That Hunter Brown and Louder really had a good pitcher's duel going there for a while. It was a good pitcher's duel. It just didn't go in our favor, so that's why I don't consider it good. Obviously, the offense isn't taking me that long to talk about because the few things that happened I already described, but they got 4 hits. They did work 5 walks, which is pretty darn good, and they only had 5 strikeouts, which compared to the previous game is amazing, but that's, kind of where we want those numbers to be, working more walks and strikeouts. I'll take 5 and 5, but just 4 hits. The team just couldn't catch a break. The last at-bat really felt like a metaphor for the day. Ben Gamel, Astros hero in a very short time, was at the plate for the last out in the 9th. He worked to a full count, staying away from swinging at pitch after pitch outside the zone that was out over the plate outside, away from him. But then he swung on a breaking ball down and in that would have been the 4th ball. Just like showing patience, working the at-bat, putting in a great effort, but just expanding the zone a little bit and not getting the result that we or the player or the team wants. The team was 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position in this game and left 7 on base. It's just a rough one. I can sit here and be like the at-bats were better than it looks on paper, but at the end of the day, you do need to connect. You do need things to break your way. You do need to force the issue, and if that means by being really selective and stopping, having to stop swinging outside the zone, it's not just on the last at-bat or anything, but throughout the at-bats in the game. and it's just tough too. Like the John Singleton almost tied the game in the ninth on a solo, another solo bolo would have tied the game. He popped one out deep to right field that was caught on the warning track. You could tell that he thought for a second it was a home run. You could tell that he wanted the home run. It just wasn't happening. And that's one of the frustrating things is like the Astros. You can't see that in a stat line. That 0 for 1 in that area in the ninth inning just looks like he struggled and sucked. But John Singleton worked a good count. He got a pitch he liked. He did some damage with it. He just didn't quite get it there, and that's why we look at balls batted into play for people that ask, why I look at balls batted into play sometimes over batting average. That's kind of why, you kind of take the defense out of the situation. You're looking at the hitting performance away from the defensive performance to see how good they are at getting balls into play, because sometimes that's what you're looking for. And while this wasn't the result we wanted, it was good. It's hard when they're, kind of working the at-bats that you want. You're just not getting the results that you want. It's, I think that they are trending in the right direction, but it's this offense was a struggle to watch today. It was a tough series overall. No Blummer in the booth. Come on, Jeff Blum, where are you? Didn't get the offense we needed in any game, and outside of a tough spaghetti inning, I'm really not that mad at the results of the pitchers in this series. We'll see how spaghetti bounces back. The home run given up today is frustrating, but, Abreu is human. Losing 1-0 shouldn't be borne by the pitcher who made the biggest mistake of the game. It's 1-0. The offense wears the L a little heavier, I think, in this L when they get shut out like this. The Astros have struggled with runners in scoring position all season. But while having a top of the league offense, I mean, you can go look at the numbers. I don't have them up right now in front of me, but I remember looking at them yesterday. It was yesterday. I just didn't write them down. The Astros have the most hits in the league. They have the highest batting average. This may have changed. It may have fluctuated back down to 2 or so. They're in the top 5 in strikeouts. They're above average in slugging and on OPS plus. But, they need, from watching the games, you can tell they need more firepower. They need some homers and extra base hits. They need some timely hitting. And this is something that the team has traditionally done. The Astros have had some troubles in the past with runners in scoring position. There's no doubt about that. But what they have done is they get an extra home run here or there. They get an extra base hit. They manufacture something with 2 outs. Sometimes, they find ways to get some offense going, usually with the long ball or some extra base hits, and they have just been lacking that a little bit more this season than in seasons past, by my eye. Having Tucker back in the lineup would be huge, would be significant. But no matter who is in the lineup, the Astros will have to work some long at-bats again and take some walks. Notice how I didn't mention their walks. Their walk percentage as a team is pretty terrible. The Astros almost tie. The Astros have worked walks in the past, not completely at the highest rate, but with having aggressive-minded hitters in their lineup a lot of times. But they need to work some more walks. They need to not expand the zone to kind of be okay with the walk every here and there. 2012. That's right. 2012. That was the last time the Astros won in Cincinnati. What? It's crazy. I didn't know that Cincinnati owned us so much. I apologize, Cincinnati. I guess I just wasn't paying attention. The Astros were outscored 18-8 in this series. It was a tough one, but kind of trying to look forward. We're kind of trying to close the page, turn the page here, close the book, whatever literary metaphor you need here. The Astros have 22 games left, and they're 5 games ahead of Seattle, the biggest lead in the American League. That's right, the Astros have the biggest division lead in the American League. Believe it or not, wow. It's time to put it behind us and get ready for the Diamondbacks, as Joe Espada mentioned. If we go to Fangraphs, we look at the divisional race, we look at the playoff odds here as we're doing our AL West check-in. The Astros are now at a 97.7 chance of playoffs, which is dipped 1% here. Slightly diminished from the last check-in, but still obvious favorites. But with the Mariners hovering around 500 and refusing to completely fall off, it's really keeping the Astros honest. This is what I was saying, is the Astros can't just expect to win the division, or they can't just cruise to a coronation. They will have to make sure they're battling in these series, and getting swept here makes it that much closer. They need to keep competing and finishing strong, not just to win the division, but I don't want this to be a terrible month for my stomach. The schedule this month is more favorable, but let me tell you the tale of the Astros playing down to their competition in the final month of the season and always freaking me out. They always have to seem to drop a series that really gets the internet, all excited, but, I'm really hoping they steady this ship quick. It's been a long, long season, fam. I'm trying to find more peace. Help me out here, Astros. Real quick, in the realm of unintentional comedy, I just wanted to mention that I love Jeff Bagwell. He's one of my childhood heroes, and outside of being some kind of awful criminal, I don't think I could ever hate him. I get that nowadays he isn't seen as the squatty, goateed power hitter of my youth, but as an old-fashioned, baseball player and analytics front office, he wears a lot of hate and has some unintentional comedic moments. But the unintentional comedy of Bagwell color commentating for Jeff Blum was pretty fun. At what point during today's game, Todd Callis was giving Jeff Bagwell the clues for the Name That Astro, to which Jeff Bagwell responded, "All right. Doesn't have to be an Astro, does it?" And TK was like, "Yeah, it's called Name That Astro." Bagwell has some good insights about baseball, but admittedly he's also a Hall of Fame player, so some of his insights are like, you just got to be better. Sometimes he just seems completely uninterested in broadcasting, doesn't really care what you think of him, and seems to be bored in the booth or just over it sometimes. I'm at least here for the comedy. I know he definitely makes people frustrated when he's in the booth, but I appreciated those moments. Like, does it have to be an Astro? Brilliant. Moving on really quickly, there has been a contract extension of note. Nope, not for the Houston Astros, but it could affect them. Matt Chapman for the San Francisco Giants signed a 6-year, is that right? $150 million extension with the Giants. So what does this mean for Breggy? It means he's going to get paid, guys. It means Bregman is going to get paid. The baseball reference comparison between Matt Chapman and Alex Bregman is nothing but favorable to Alex Bregman, with a bunch of green on his side. The only exception, the only place that Chapman has the edge is Gold Gloves. Chapman has edged Bregman out for years, having 4 to Bregman's 0, but every other metric is Bregman. He leads in WAR, he's better at hitting, home runs, RBIs, even stolen bases. Bregman has a career 132 OPS plus to Chapman's 118. Breggy's even younger. And with Bregman not only being the best third baseman, but one of the few free agent third basemen, this is making me nervous. It's not like I was saying Bregman for sure is going to be an Astro. I kind of have been expecting that this could end in heartbreak for me, but this contract definitely is going to make it that much more difficult on the Houston Astros. But we'll see. Let's get to some roster moves real quick before we go to preview the next series. Chaz is on the squad, at least for a bit, with Cesar Salazar and Forrest Whitley being sent down to AAA. Mi primo, Cesar Salazar, being sent back down to AAA. For Myers, Jake Myers will rejoin the team tomorrow when his paternity leave ends. And right-handed pitcher Nick Hernandez, who did make the dark horse list for a September call-up, but I thought was not probable, is called up to join the main team. He's the United. Goodness gracious, I'm all over the place. The University of Houston alum was with the team in June and has been in Sugar Land since his stint here with the club. So I guess we're not going with three catchers. Cesar Salazar being sent back down. Mi primo, sorry. I guess Bregman isn't that injured, and we're going with Singleton at first, and Tuck is for sure coming back. So yeah, let's get to it. Finally, some good news. Maybe the Astros are very hopeful that Tucker can be added to the active roster tomorrow, and that obviously is going to be without a rehab assignment, which means that they would not only be DHing Tuck a lot, but probably handling him very carefully, not to rush him too much, especially with all the bad headlines circulating around the Houston Astros. They need a new PR person, but I think Tucker coming back without a rehab assignment, they probably are going to rest him a lot, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll be an everyday guy and they just feed him a heavy dose of DH. Yordan does like playing the field. I think the Singleton Caratini platoon is working. But really the question is who gets sent down in the corresponding move. Chaz is merely an understudy for Myers right now. Is it Whitcomb? Is it DeZenzo? Out of the two, I'm thinking Whitcomb stays for his third base ability, just in case Bregman needs a day off unexpectedly. I liked Zach DeZenzo, but with Carantini and Singleton kind of finding some success, I think DeZenzo is the odd man out. All right, before we get to the Houston Astros preview, let's actually talk really quickly about the Houston Texans. Football fans, if you are listening to this, you can go back to the last episode in the podcast feed where we do the NFL Week 1 preview and talk about the Houston Texans. But one thing that was released today that is big news for Houston Texans fans would be Joe Mixon is 100% healthy and a full workload is expected for Mixon. There have been question marks from this new addition to the team not participating, but this was just a vet and the team protecting his health. And this is a sign that the Texans have who they want at starting running back, and we're hoping to round that offense out. Mixon will be the starter, but who will be the backup? A lot of people are looking at Dameon Pierce, who had some success with the Houston Texans, but has had some struggles with the zone blocking scheme, and as of late, and veteran Cam Akers joined the team in the offseason and has done phenomenally well and possibly could leapfrog Dameon Pierce as the full-time backup for Mixon. We will have to see how that plays out. On to the D-backs. One of the hottest teams in baseball, at least since the All-Star break, is coming to Minute Maid Park. The first game is Frat. That's right. He's 9-7. He's got a 4.32 ERA, 160 and 1/3 inning pitched with 155 strikeouts and 119 whip on the season. And right now, well, at least when I started recording this podcast, it might be out now, but Joe Espada said he did not have starters set up for the next series, so there are a bunch of TBDs for the Astros. But if we are going in order, this will be the Fromber game. I anticipate this being the Fromber game. Fromber has 150 and 1/3 inning pitched on the season. We're going with advanced stats for the Astros here. He has 24.4% strikeout rate, a 7.9% walk rate, a 59.5% ground ball rate. On the season, he has a 3.11 ERA, and his field independent pitching is 3.24. In the second game, that will be Eduardo Rodriguez from the Snakes. He's a left-handed 31-year-old veteran pitcher who is 2-1 on the season with a 5.33 ERA, a 25 and 1/3 innings pitched total, and 17 strikeouts with a 1.38 whip. This veteran, you might know him from Boston or Detroit in previous seasons. We'll see what the lefty has. Hopefully, the Astros right-handed hitters can do some damage. In this game, we are expecting Yusei Kikuchi to pitch for the Houston Astros, who has 150 and 2/3 innings pitched on the season with a nice strikeout rating of 27.8%. and a low walk rate as well at 6.3%, and that ground ball rate is 42%, not quite as good as Fromber's, of course, but that's nice. His ERA is high at 4.24, but his field independent pitching is a lot lower at 3.49, which shows Kikuchi might be having a lot of bad luck in that ERA stat line. Then in the third game, where am I? My goodness, there's too many things here. Okay, so I have too many numbers on this page that I'm reading right now. The Arizona Diamondbacks will be sending out Ryan Nelson. This right-handed pitcher is 10-6 on the season with a 4.15 ERA, 143 innings pitched, 121 strikeouts, and a low 1.26 WHIP. And we don't know. I think this is the game that's the TBD because they're trying to figure out who's going to go in this game. Obviously, the kind of consensus for the team going into this series was that Ronald Blanco would be added to the bullpen, but maybe with some Justin Verlander struggles and maybe with an off Spencer Arrighetti game, they're reconsidering that. I think if they go with what they were thinking, and the Astros can be the Astros of past can be fairly conservative, but Joe Espada has been known to make quick decisions and kind of ride the hot hand, get guys rest. So, I feel like this could go either way, but I'm going to say that they're going to go with a conservative route here and give this start to Justin Verlander, move Ronald Blanco to the bullpen, and let Spaghetti have one more chance at the rotation. And if he struggles, swap him out. Give Blanco another start, put Spaghetti in the pen. Keep Verlander pitching in the rotation because he's a vet. You don't do that. You're not going to do that to Justin Verlander. I don't know how that conversation would even go, and he needs to figure it out. So you want to have him figure it out in the regular season. So I think Verlander will start this game against Ryan Nelson. JV, his stats are 71 and 2/3 of an inning pitched on the season with a 20.5% strikeout rate, a 7.5% walk rate, and 27% ground ball rate, and a 4.52 ERA. And 4.74 FIP on the year. I show those numbers to compare them to our other pitchers. That ground ball rate is very low. Strikeout rate isn't that great. We're hoping that he can improve these numbers. Just for reference, for JV, his career numbers are 24.6 strikeout rate, 6.8 walk rate, a 37.6 ground ball rate, a 3.27 ERA and a 3.27 ERA and a 3.41 FIP. In prime JV, to just keep spitting numbers at you, but I know some of you are stat nerds like me. Just get through it quickly here for you people that hate it. But JV, on his career on 2019, one of his best years, he was a 35.4% strikeout rate, 5% walk rate, 35.9% ground ball rate, a 2.58 ERA, and a 3.27 FIP. We're hoping that Verlander can kind of sharpen up and figure it out because this season has been rough for him, particularly his last couple starts. I think he's going to adjust. He is going to figure it out. I think we won't be worried about this in 2 weeks. And I think Justin Verlander's too crafty. He's too wily. He's been playing too long to not figure out how to compete for the rest of this month and to keep his playoffs rotation spot alive. He plays for pride. He wants that. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this podcast today. Thank you so much for listening to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Wherever you are listening to this on, please please rate and review, please subscribe, download, share with other Houston Astros and Houston Texans and Houston Rockets fans. Let those H-Town hustlers know that we're here. Go check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can put your email in that field and you get every article, every meme dump, every podcast, and the occasional video podcast emailed to you directly for free. Or if you're like me and you like your cell phone and iPad, you can get the Substack app, search Space Cadet Sports, click that you want notifications instead of emails, and you just get notifications every time there's a post, podcast. And I like that experience a whole lot more. Maybe that's just me. You can reach out to me on social media. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of Spencer A. Getty, let me know what you think of the playoff rotation. Let me know who you think they're going to dip out of the rotation and what you would do if you're manager Joe Espada. You can reach out on social media to let me know at Paul Salazar Jr. on all social media platforms. Let me know what you think of but let me know your opinions. Or if you want to call into the podcast like a radio show, you can do that. That's going to be on this website. You go to speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Once again, that's speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Remember to be the best you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Astros.